Comrades 2019 started in Durban. As you do, we took off in the dark, then you go straight onto the freeway there. Now that means it's not as congested as Pietermaritzburg, and you can run freely. The biggest challenge for me at that point was running too fast. I had to slow myself down. In fact, at the time I was running with my friend Anne, and she was like, hang on, mate, slow down, you're going too quick. So I did that, managed to come out all right. Another friend, Dean, passed me a few Ks in. I'd had a charity start. So I'd actually raised money for World Vision that year, and I'm proud to say I was their #1 fundraiser for Comrades. I raised about 20,000 Rand, which is, you know, I personally thought fantastic effort, and I was really pleased that some good would come of that money, and I got to see batch start. So this race was all about my back-to-back medal. So you might recall that I'd finished 2018 with under 3 minutes to spare. That meant if I was going to get back-to-back, I had to improve. Everyone says it's a bit slower. If I turned up in the same shape, I'd be a DNF for sure. So I had prepared really solidly. I had a coach, I'd trained really well, I was strong, and I was feeling really confident. So taking off, I ran well there in the dark, and what happens is eventually, of course, the sun comes up and the crowds are there, and you're fresh, the crowd's cheering, the sun's just come up, you feel $1 million. And the race seems easy at that point, but of course, 10 Ks or so in, you've got a long way still to go and plenty of hills between you and the finish. So I did that. That went pretty well. Came through, ran up Cowies, no problems. Then came to Fields. With that, I think I walked up Fields. The great Barry Holland came past me there on his way to, or whatever number it was for him. It would have been high 40s that year. And everything was going okay. And then after Fields, you just get into a continual, not all the hills have got names. So there's just a continual pattern of climbing. I did wonder, where's Botha's hill? Have I done it? Is it coming? Eventually I figured out I hadn't done it. It was just hills without names that I had done. And that was going okay. Now at this point, 30 odd Ks in when I went up Botha's, at that point my legs started to hurt. So to set the scene here, I'd felt at the start I was in as good a shape as I'd ever been in, certainly in a number of years. Really good condition. I probably thought I could break 4 hours in a marathon if it was in Australia in benign conditions, the way I was feeling. And that's probably why I ran so well. But for me, the first sign of problems is leg pain, and that's what I got. At this stage, Anne was well behind me, Dean well in front, and it just got a lot harder. So I was able to keep going all right, but it wasn't as easy as it was before, and I did start to slow down. Of course, that meant Anne caught up with me. She had a fantastic day, actually. She then ran off and had a great second half of the race. From memory, I think she negatively split the race. I certainly didn't. Through Drummond, okay. Then it came to Inchanga. I did find that tough. You know, it's one of the big five. It's a serious climb. I think that's where the 11-hour pacer group caught me there. And whilst I kept them within sight, you know, slowly but surely pulled ahead of me, and that was that. So the whole point of this race was to get my back-to-back medal. I had lived, eaten, drunk the back-to-back. So many things. I walked from the train station to my office, which was it's a bit over a kilometre and a half or something, every day. Just part of extra exercise. I figured it'd help. Office was on the 3rd floor of a building. I'd go up and down by the stairs. Just all these little things to make my legs stronger, my feet stronger, so I'd be able to run better. I was absolutely committed to the back-to-back. To me, a bonus would be getting a bronze medal, but I knew that wouldn't be easy. And as you could see, the day started to unravel here. So from there, anyway, I head over, keep going, Cato Ridge. I get there, it's 56 kilometre mark there. and I get there in 7 hours 11, which puts me actually 11,400s. And I'm just a few minutes, I bought an 11-hour pacing band. I'm just a few minutes behind that. That's okay, but of course in these ultras it can be hard to catch up once you start falling behind. Now the next leg on there is to Umlas Road. Of course, Umlas Road is the highest point in the course. So it's still going up, but after that, the cumulative up, I guess, is finished, if you like. Now this, for me, I found this really difficult. We went through Harrison Flats, which has got a horrible reputation. Fordyce refers to it as soulless. It's hard to argue. Doesn't have a lot going for it. And I started to feel nauseous. And it meant I didn't want to eat. If I did feel eat, I thought, well, maybe I'm going to throw up. This just wasn't a great time. Whatever the cause was, I couldn't figure it out at the time. But also the other thing was, now I was feeling dizzy. Now this is a problem. I'd read the famous Bruce Digger Hargraves had written a story of one of his comrades where that was one of the symptoms he had. And to cut a long story short, he'd ended up sitting down and had never been able to get up. And even though he'd been on course for a bronze medal, he ended up being a DNF because he just couldn't stand up, and therefore he was never going to get going in the race again. That's probably a more extreme example of what can happen with these things, but no doubt it was bothering me. So I did try and drink a bit more water, make myself feel better, and also became aware, it rained overnight in Durban. The start was quite cool, and I guess that got me in the mindset of thinking it was going to be a cool day. But in truth, it had warmed up now, and it was no longer cool, and I probably hadn't been taking the precautions that I normally would in that kind of weather, like pouring a cold drink or some water on the back of my neck, for instance, which really makes a big difference. So I started doing that, and eventually I came to Umlas Road at 67 kilometres at 8 hours 36. And interestingly, I'd actually, even though I'd had a horrible leg, I'd improved in my place about 50 spots. So there you go. But now I was 10 minutes behind the 11-hour pacing band. So when I first looked at these places, I thought, oh, actually, that was a good leg. So I was just looking in gender group, and I'd passed 750 men on that leg. So even though I'd had a difficult one, they were obviously having worse ones. But then I looked at my overall place and I saw it was much less, and I was confused for a few seconds, and the penny dropped. All right. So what's happened is I've passed a heap of blokes, and at the same time, I've been passed by a heap of women. And this is a pattern we do see, that whether it's better pacing or ability to slow down less, that women tend to run out ultramarathons better than guys for whatever reason. I know with a few of my friends, they certainly seem to be able to do that better than me. And it's enough to think it's not just an individual thing. Anyway, so that's what was going on. So I'd got there. Now, I had worked hard trying to drink more water through there, and it must have helped because I started to feel a bit better. I had, somewhere along the way, I'd met a bloke called Stuart, and he and I started running together, and that really helped as well. Just some company, and we could share the grief, as it were. I can recommend that, by the way, if you're struggling in an ultra. So we came to Polly Shortts. So there's little Pollies. Some people, particularly novices on their first up run, can get confused, but I'd been worded up about it, so I knew what was coming. So little Pollies is first, and then you come to the big one, Polly Shortts. Fordyce says of Polly Shortts, everyone walks except for two groups of people, those trying to win the race and those trying to make the final cutoff. Well, lucky for me, I wasn't either of those groups. Well, I wouldn't mind being a race winner, I guess, but so I walked there along with everyone else. It's a steep climb. It's easily the steepest of the climbs. And I just hung in there and, marched up that hill. I remember passing a guy being treated by the medics on the side of the road there. It makes you take pause, I guess, when you see that. He didn't look that great, but there were no reports of anything particularly bad there, so I guess it worked out for him. He must have just been exhausted. So there's a checkpoint at the top of Polly's, not at the bottom, at the top. So 79.2k, and I came through there in 10:18. And again, a place that improved a bit. Now I'm 11,090s there. I'm now 15 minutes behind the 11-hour pacing band, but I'm an hour ahead of the final cutoff. So as this was all about my back-to-back, I now realise I just needed to average 12 minutes a kilometre from here to finish. So it looked like the bronze medal was gone, but the finish was in the bag. Wouldn't even be close. Something really stupid would have to happen for me to stop that. I was running with Stuart. I remember at the top of Polly's, I turned to him and said, you know what, I think it'd be quicker to list the things that aren't hurting rather than the things that are, because my whole body was in agony by then, regardless of the fact that I'd prepared well for this. It is a challenging race. So with that in mind, Stuart and I agreed that we'd run the last leg in whatever fashion we could to reduce the pain as low as possible. So there were 3 little hills from there to the racecourse where the finish was. We walked those hills. We enjoyed, you go past the houses there in Peter Marathon, and they're all playing the music and it's blaring and it's cheering you on. It's just fantastic, So we just enjoyed that, soaked up the atmosphere, and didn't try and worry too much about how fast we were going or not going. Walk breaks when we felt like it. Then, with a kilometre to go, everyone's starting to run and just encouraging us all to run. So, yeah, we did that. We took off and ran the last K. And I'm proud to say I came in 11 hours 20, which is 37 minutes faster than my 2018 down run. Although they're different courses, I thought that was a significant achievement. So from that, got these 2 medals, finisher's medal and a back-to-back. It's major achievement for any runner, and Comrades, that's the goal. So to do that was amazing and really one of the highlights of my running career.